Hey, what's up YouTube? Today we're going to be going over how to wire in your speakers for your Highliner headliner using a dash mounted radio. So what I've done is I've pulled my gauges already, just because that's where I'm going to be running my wires and everything. If you decide you could run your wires the other way, it doesn't matter. I just feel like because your controls for all your heater and defrost are right here, I'm just scared a wire is going to get pinched in there. So I'm going to run it this way. It also helps because I have a ground right here that goes right behind the gauges that I can use for my stereo instead of having to re-drill another ground or anything like that. I'll just get an eyelet and put it on there. So I'm going to go ahead and run my wires that will go from here down to here. And I just went and bought some speaker wire over at Walmart. I think it costs I believe it's a 18 gauge. It costs like 15 bucks for 100 feet of it. And the reason is because the kit that you can buy, it only comes with enough wire to run from your speakers over to where the deck and the middle of the headliner should be. So you're not gonna have enough wire to run from your speakers all the way down to your stereo if you're using your dash stereo. So what I've decided to do is I'm just gonna use some handy dandy wire for like tying fence and stuff like that, and I will just push it up through here so that I can get it up here and then tape my speaker wire and then pull it down through, because it is way harder to push this wire up through there. You're gonna have a heck of a time even if you're pushing it down, just because it's not very rigid. It'll just kind of flop around. So I gotta do that real quick. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this wire down through this frame. One thing you wanna make sure you do is label your wires. It makes it real difficult to figure out what any wire is if it's not labeled. And I just got this wire, it's ran all the way up through here, down to here, and I'm gonna tape it on here. One thing you wanna do, if you can see this, is make sure you tape this wire longer past all this, so then you can run this tape around once to hold that in, and then what I do is I bend it back over, so then I can tape around it again so that this wire doesn't go pulling out on me when I'm trying to run it down through the frame. You can start pulling it through. Make sure you are helping it along so it doesn't catch and rip off. There we go, we're all the way through. So all you have to do is just unwrap this wire, pull it off of there. Now inside here, there's a corner you have to make, because the hole to go through into the dash is up here. Feed that through. And then you want to make sure you're pulling the wires all the way through. There we go. Make sure you have access on both sides. So this is the connector out of the back of the radio. I just pulled it out because it's way easier to do all my wiring right here than it is doing it back behind the radio. With my stereo system that it comes with all the wires pretty much labeled. Like I've got my rear left, right rear, all that stuff. And that's why you need to really pay attention to how your wiring diagram goes for your stereo. Because the last thing you want to do is wire it all together and then it doesn't work right. So I've got mine labeled. I have my right rear, and with the speaker wire that you buy, there's usually a solid color and then one with a tracer. And the tracer lines for this, just to keep it simple, the tracer lines are all the negative side, and then just the solid colors are the positive side. So I'm just going to keep that same format. My solid wires are my positive, and then my tracer wires are my negative. All I'm going to do is just strip these wires. And this wire right here is my right rear. So all I need to do is just find my right rear, which is my purple wires. And so I'll get my two purple wires together. This is my solid wire. Get that all stripped out. Now, one thing for this really small wire, you probably can't tell because the camera's far away, but the really small gauge wire, if you can get away with folding the wire at the very end, just so it's a little bit thicker, so your butt connectors will grab it a little bit better. All I did was feed it in there and crimp it. And you want to pull a little bit, make sure it's good. Now that I've got this all wired together, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into my stereo so that I know how long all the rest of the wire needs to be that are going up to my speakers. I found the easiest way to do it is to remove your glove box, and then you can just reach around in here, at least for mine anyways, and just get it plugged in. So we're all plugged in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out all the rest of the slack that's in there, so that I've got all these wires all set up. There's actually some clips up in the back of here that are pretty handy that you can stick your wires up into, so it stays out of the way of all of your gauges and everything like that. Now, as you can see, for this first speaker, I'm gonna have quite a bit of wire left over, and I'm actually gonna use the little harness that came with the original Highliner package, and my goal is to actually keep all of this. So I'm gonna run it up through here and then just run it so it's hanging down, because I want to use as much of this as possible, because if I ever decide to go and do a Bluetooth mount, then I'll still have all this wire readily available. I may actually trim this one a little bit because it's a pretty decent amount. So I have this one set up as my left rear speaker. and then my left front and right front will be in the middle. So since I've got it labeled and I don't need a lot of this wire, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it like right here, and then we can get it wired together. Well, it's time to get our speakers in. Let's go ahead and wire them up. All I'm doing is on every single wire, how I had there's the tracer wire and then just the solid wire. If you look right here, there's a little red dot. One thing that this didn't actually label very well, really it's the only complaint I have about this product, is it's very hard. I'm assuming that that red dot means that it's positive, and then that the other side is negative. It'd be nice if they just had either a plus sign or something like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and wire it up. The solid wire is positive, and then the tracer wire, it's a white tracer, is negative. These actually are kind of difficult to pop in. And I'm just going to shove this wire up in there. We've got our cover. So now that I've got all four of the speakers in, you can see them in behind me. The only thing left to do is we need to wire in our voltage and our grounds to our stereo. And I'll give you those wire colors and get it all wired in. The three wires that run to your stereo are a battery voltage, an ignition voltage, and your ground. For these trucks, your battery voltage will be a yellow wire. It's the big yellow wire that comes out of your ignition. For your just key on voltage or ignition voltage, it is a red and green wire that comes out of your ignition. And then for my ground, all I did was I just tied into this ground right here that goes into the back of the dash. It all now works. It actually sounds pretty clear. Thank you for watching today. I really enjoyed being able to install this Highliner and to bring you guys along. This product actually is a pretty good product. The sound sounds clear. Everything seemed to be fairly straightforward with the installation process. The only thing I didn't like that I voiced earlier was about those speakers, how they weren't labeled right with either a positive or a negative sign. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Our goal here at this channel is to get your classic cars up and running by providing tutorials or answering questions. So reach out if you have any questions about your 72 F100 or 70 or whatever you need.